Consistency is the invisible force that shapes destiny. Is the quiet decision you make every day to show up, regardless of how you feel, regardless of how motivated you are, regardless of whether anyone is watching or applauding. Most people believe success belongs to the talented, the lucky, or the gifted, but talent without consistency is fragile. Motivation without consistency is temporary. Intelligence without consistency is wasted potential. The people who truly change their lives are not always the smartest or the most gifted. They are the ones who keep going when others stop. The ones who do the simple things repeatedly until those simple things become extraordinary results. Consistency beats talent because talent relies on mood. Talent shows up when it feels inspired. Consistency shows up because it has decided who it is. You've seen it in life. People with enormous potential who never fulfill it, and people with average ability who rise far beyond expectations. The difference is not intelligence or opportunity. The difference is who stayed in the game long enough for effort to compound. Talent gives you a head start, but consistency wins the race every time. Because consistency turns effort into momentum and momentum into identity. Small daily actions are underestimated because they don't feel powerful in the moment. One workout doesn't transform your body. One page doesn't write a book. One focused hour doesn't build a business. But small actions repeated daily create a force so strong that it becomes unstoppable. Life doesn't change in giant leaps, it changes in patterns. And patterns are created by what you do consistently. The actions that seem insignificant today are shaping the results you'll live with tomorrow. Every day you show up. Even imperfectly, you place another brick in the foundation of your future. People often sabotage themselves by waiting for intensity. They wait for a surge of motivation, a moment of clarity, a burst of confidence, but intensity fades. Consistency remains. Intensity feels good, but it's unreliable. Consistency is quiet, sometimes boring, sometimes uncomfortable, but it is dependable, and life rewards what is dependable. When you stop chasing intensity and start committing to consistency, you shift from emotional living to intentional living. You stop being controlled by how you feel and start being guided by who you've decided to become. Identity is the true engine of consistency. You don't become consistent by forcing yourself to do more. You become consistent by deciding who you are. When your identity changes, your behavior follows naturally. When you see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who honors commitments, someone who shows up no matter what, consistency stops being a struggle. It becomes an expression of self-respect. You don't negotiate with yourself anymore. You don't argue with your emotions. You act in alignment with your identity. Standards shape identity, and identity shapes consistency. If your standards are low, your actions will be inconsistent. If your standards are clear and non-negotiable, consistency becomes automatic. Standards are the rules you live by when no one is watching. They determine what you tolerate and what you refuse to accept. When you raise your standards, you don't need more motivation, you need less debate. You act because it's who you are, not because you feel like it. Discipline is the structure that holds consistency together when emotions fade. Emotions are unpredictable. Some days you feel strong, focused, unstoppable. Other days you feel tired, doubtful, distracted. Discipline bridges that gap. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. It is choosing what you want most over what you want now. It is doing the work even when your mind is looking for an escape. Discipline sustains progress when enthusiasm disappears. And it is the reason consistent people keep moving forward while others fall back. When discipline becomes a habit, it removes friction. You no longer rely on willpower for every decision. You build systems, routines, and rituals that support consistency. Habits become automatic behaviors that protect your progress. And once something becomes a habit, it requires less energy to maintain. This is why consistency eventually feels easier. Not because the work gets lighter, but because you get stronger and more efficient at showing up. Consistency builds self-trust, and self-trust changes everything. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you reinforce the belief that you are reliable. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken that belief. Confidence is not built through positive thinking. It is built through evidence. And evidence comes from action. When you act consistently, even when it's uncomfortable, you gather proof that you can be trusted. That proof becomes confidence. That confidence fuels more action. And that action creates results. Most people struggle with consistency because they expect perfection. They believe that missing one day means failure. They believe that slipping up erases progress. But consistency is not about never failing. It's about refusing to quit. It's about returning. It's about understanding that progress is not linear. You will have setbacks. You will have days where you fall short. What matters is not the fall, but the response. Consistent people don't waste energy on guilt or self-judgment. They recalibrate and move forward. The compound effect of consistency is invisible at first. In the early stages, it feels like effort without reward. This is where most people quit. They don't see immediate results, so they assume it's not working. But consistency operates on a delayed timeline. The growth is happening beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. Just like a seed planted in the ground, progress is taking place even when you can't see it. Those who stay patient eventually reach a tipping point where effort turns into acceleration. Consistency also creates emotional stability. When your life is driven by habits instead of moods, you experience less chaos. You don't wake up wondering whether you'll be productive or disciplined. You decide in advance. This creates certainty, and certainty creates peace. When you know you will show up regardless of how you feel, anxiety loses its grip. Doubt loses its power. You stop negotiating with fear because fear no longer controls your actions. Distraction is the enemy of consistency. We live in a world designed to fragment attention, to reward instant gratification, to make long-term focus difficult. Consistency requires intentional focus. It requires the ability to say no to what is easy so you can say yes to what is meaningful. Every distraction you indulge delays the life you want to build. Consistent people protect their focus because they understand that attention is energy, and energy directed consistently creates results. Consistency also reveals character. Anyone can perform when conditions are perfect. Anyone can show up when they feel inspired. But consistency reveals who you are when conditions are difficult, when progress is slow, when recognition is absent. This is where character is built. This is where identity is forged. Every day you choose consistency over comfort, you become someone stronger than your excuses. The most powerful aspect of consistency is that it removes reliance on motivation. Motivation is emotional in temper. Airy. Consistency is structural and enduring. When you build your life around consistent habits, you don't need to feel inspired to act. Action becomes your default, and action creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence reinforces identity. Identity sustains consistency. Consistency transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes. It is the difference between starting and finishing, between dreaming and doing, between intention and reality. It is not glamorous, but it is effective. It does not promise overnight success, but it guarantees long-term transformation. Every great achievement is the result of consistent effort applied over time. When you commit to consistency, you commit to growth. Growth is uncomfortable. Growth requires repetition. Growth requires patience. But growth is inevitable when consistency is present. You don't need to know exactly how everything will work out. You only need to know what you will do today and tomorrow and the day after that. Consistency simplifies life by narrowing your focus to what matters most. Showing up. Over time, consistency reshapes your self-image. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who finishes. You stop identifying with potential and start identifying with execution. This shift changes how you approach every area of life, your health, your work, your relationships, your goals. You become someone who can be counted on, especially by yourself. Consistency is not a single decision. It is a daily reaffirmation. Every morning you choose whether to align with your standards or your excuses. Every moment you choose whether to act from identity or emotion. These choices accumulate, they compound, and eventually they define the quality of your life. The life you want is not built in moments of inspiration. It is built in moments of commitment. The future you desire is shaped by what you repeat. When you embrace consistency fully, you stop asking whether you're capable and start proving it through action. You stop waiting for confidence and start creating it. You stop hoping for change and start embodying it. Consistency is not just a strategy for success. It is the process through which you become the person capable of sustaining that success.